All right, welcome back to Daybreak on this 5th day of May 2020. It's now 26 minutes to 8 o'clock, and it's time that we speak to Senator Moses Kajwang. Later on, we speak to Senator Ledamo Lekina. Senator Moses Kajwang is obviously the outgoing chairperson of the County Public Accounts and Investments Committee. But before we do that, let's take a look at some of the graphics that we have of the faces that have been sitting in that committee. We know that, of course, Senator Kajwang has been the chairperson of the committee. Mithika Linturi, the senator of Meru, has been the vice chairperson. Fatuma Dulo, senator from Isiolo, has also been a member. And the other member has been Senator Kimani Wamatangi from Kiambu. He's also from the Jubilee Party. Charles Kibiru from Kirinyaga. Millicent Omanga, nominated senator of Jubilee Party. And then also Mwinyi Haji Mohammed from Mombasa, an ODM senator. Then Senator Ledamo Lekina from Narok, and Samson Ongeri from Kisii, all from ODM. And of course, this is a committee that is for oversight purposes. And outgoing chairperson, Senator Moses Kajwang, good morning. First of all, how are you keeping with these times of COVID-19? We haven't heard from you for so long. What has been happening?
Good morning, Sam. We took seriously the government directive to scale down activities and to stay at home. And so we are mostly meeting our constituents virtually and interfacing much on phone. But we are keeping well. We are in a state of hibernation, and we pray that we shall all pass safely through this pandemic.
Right, and let's speak about the committee that you've been chairing for the past 3 years. And yesterday when you had a conversation, you were telling me about the accounts that so far you have cleared and have been adopted by the House. Maybe you can tell us about that as we focus on the oversight role of that committee.
Sam, I've been privileged to lead a committee of eminent senators for the last 3 sessions. During that period, we have generated a lot of reports that have been adopted by the House. During my tenure, we tabled all the reports for the financial year 2013-2014 and 2014-15. That is 2 financial years. So in total, the House has adopted 90 reports that we brought before them. You must recall that when I took over as chair, the House had not adopted a single report. And there were many reasons, because the first 5 years of the Senate's existence was characterized with a lot of squabbles between Senate and the Council of Governors. You remember Governor Oparanya even went to court, and he was joined by several other governors, and they challenged the powers of the Senate to call governors before it. We eventually settled the issues, and we have seen all the 47 county governors appearing before the Senate and taking the work of the Senate very seriously. After the adoption of the 90 or so reports, they have now been forwarded to the relevant implementation agencies. Last week, during this corona crisis, there was a ruling that came from our courts of law that Parliament cannot stop processes. Parliament can only recommend investigation and prosecution. So most of our recommendations, I know people are a bit anxious and a bit apprehensive as to why the recommendations have not been implemented. Most of the recommendations pointed towards additional investigation and prosecution. But there are also cases where we have made administrative proposals that should be implemented within 3 months after the adoption of those reports. So I'm very proud to say that we dealt with 2 solid financial years, and we had also started interrogations on the last 3 financial years. You saw we were now calling current governors, people like Governor Sonko, who was not there in the first term of devolution. They had to come and account for their time in office. People like Governor Waititu, you know, we saw that through that interrogation of Governor Waititu, we were able to go back to IFMIS. We were able to refocus the attention of the country on audit issues and on bookkeeping issues in the counties. And subsequently, when Governor Waititu was kicked out of office, part of it was that audit process that had unveiled massive mismanagement on his part.
But Senator, one would wonder, because you are saying that 2013-14, 2014-15 are the accounts that have been, of course, approved, passed by the committee and approved by the House, or adopted by the House. Since devolution, it's now about 7 years or so, so you still have the financial years of 2015 to 16 until 2018-19. Those are 4 financial years that have not been audited. What has been the challenge in looking at these numbers?
The first 5 years of devolution was a period of settling down. And I don't want to fault those who were in this committee before me, because they had significant challenges. They had to set up, they had to start from zero to be able to get the committee to where it was. And that is why when I took over at the advent of the second Senate, no single report had been adopted. We had to dig through, we had to dig ourselves out of a very deep hole of backlog. And in the 2 or 3 sessions that I was there, we were able to settle 2 financial years. What we also decided to do was to take a holistic view of the issues raised by the Auditor General. So we generated the Fiduciary Risks Report. The Fiduciary Risk Report basically takes 3 years, the first 3 years of devolution, and summarizes the key issues that have been raised by the Auditor General and comes up with general recommendations. It is almost like a marking scheme, which if taken by investigating and prosecuting agencies, they do not have to wait for individual recommendations from the Senate. So we believe that even in this session, the team that is going to take over will take an omnibus approach and do a Fiduciary Risk Report for the remaining 3 years. But also remember that the audit reports that have been laid before the House have gone up to 2018. For the year 2018 and 2019, the Auditor General is not yet in office, so those reports are not with us. So we are looking at 3 years, and those 3 years we had already done the interrogation of governors, and what is pending is really just report writing, recommendations and adoption by the House, and implementation by the various agencies.
And you may clarify this, because I remember in the first Senate, that is before the current term, there were a lot of questions on governors and misappropriations, governors that had already been impeached, but that was overturned by the High Court and other courts. So how much of accountability are these reports enhancing in how you oversee the situations in the counties?
The Fiduciary Risk Report that I've referred to took, summed up all the queries, financial queries that the Auditor General had raised. And we concluded that the amount that had been lost in counties was enough to build 3 thicker superhighways. That is how bad the situation was in the first 5 years of devolution. But we must also understand that audit is not just about catching thieves. I know the general view is that we need to catch those people who are stealing money in the counties. Audit is also supposed to drive improvement in processes, improvement in behavior. It is supposed to ensure that we have a conversation with the counties, between the counties, the Auditor General, and the Senate, a conversation that can help them improve. I can give you a few examples of outcomes of this audit process. So, for example, in Kakamega County, Governor Oparanya, in the first 5 years of devolution, refused to come before the Senate. But in this particular term of the Senate, he came, and he just realized how important this exercise was. When he went back to Kakamega, he appointed a county Auditor General. That was quite innovative, because he appointed someone who would have his eyes fully on the books and ensure that the audit process is done properly. Many of the counties, close to 40 of the 47 counties, have now established audit committees. Governor Awiti of Homa Bay, after he came to Senate and realized that he was bleeding in on-source revenue, he went back to Homa Bay and fired 400 revenue officers. Governor of Nyeri, when we pointed out to him that his wage bill was unsustainable at 51% of his revenues, he went back and undertook a restructuring program. Governor of Taita
but Senator, if I may cut you short, the bottom line for many is that whatever reports you produce should be very useful in showing who may have misappropriated funds. But as of now, we know that your reports may not be used as evidence in court. I mean, how do we help the country so that all of these oversight authorities are able to work with institutions like the DCI and the DPP in as far as following up on the public finance management in the country?
I must say that the reports that were adopted by the House, the 90 reports, are very specific. They have very specific recommendations. They mention persons by their positions and by name, where the Auditor General managed to get the names of the persons whose hands were caught in the cookie jar. They are extremely specific. It is only that the DPP cannot use them for prosecution. There is still that other process of EACC and DCI doing investigations and forwarding the file to the DPP. And that is a constitutional framework that we have. The public would have the expectation that Senate is capable of dragging a person to court. Unfortunately, that is not the situation. There are certain jurisdictions where the Public Accounts Committee as a police officer assigned to it. Indeed, during my term, we managed to build good relationships with EACC, and there was an EACC officer always present in our meetings. But then, despite our recommendations, they still had to go through the usual process of investigations. But the presence of EACC in the meeting room also helped us, because we could see EACC taking some very proactive measures whenever issues arise. So I want to assure the nation that our report for the first two financial years and for the subsequent financial years will be very detailed, will be very specific, but the broader issue would be to use the audit process to better service delivery in our counties, and we are already seeing the results, we're already seeing the fruits of the conversations that we've been having at the Senate.
Senator, we need to wind up on this, but I remember that sometimes, I believe it was either 2018 or 2019, there is a report that came on Roraka land, and it caused a lot of heat. There were accusations that some of the members of the committee and the Senate may have been bribed to defeat a report. Just how difficult is it to move motions or issues in the committee and the Senate independently at such a time when you are the chair?
I guess on reflection, that report came at a time when our politics was extremely fragile and we are extremely divided, such that even when you spoke the truth, it didn't matter whether it's true. As long as it touched on someone who was part of your political favorites, then the report would go nowhere. I am still convinced that we did an excellent job as a committee, and we have been vindicated by the courts of law. EACC went to court over the same issues, and they came to the same conclusion that my committee came up with. That report is there, even though it was not adopted by the House, but it shall serve for posterity to see some of the things that we have gone through as a nation, some of the challenges that occurred during the transition to devolution. And you do recall, the reason why we as Senate were interested in that matter is that it involved assets that were the property of the defunct Nairobi City Council, and that was squarely within the mandate of the Senate. This challenge will always be there. You saw in the United States, when Donald Trump was being impeached, the Senate, they decided to take positions on basis of political party allegiances. So it is not a uniquely Kenyan problem. It is a global problem. It is a challenge that we have in multi-party parliaments and democracies. It will always be there. But it is important that as a nation, if we are going to achieve, if we are going to realize the fruits and the goals we have set for ourselves, we must show lower tolerance to graft.
And Senator, now you're no longer a member of the committee. I saw your tweet a few days ago saying that you are observing a tradition that has been set by your the former chairs, and you're out of the committee. Take us through how electing a new chairperson goes in establishing a new committee leadership.
The Public Accounts Committee of the Senate is quite unique as compared to the one of the National Assembly. In the Senate, it serves for 1 year, and it is renewed annually. I had the privilege, and I want to thank my colleagues for giving me the opportunity for serving for 3 sessions, which is roughly 3 years. In the National Assembly, they serve for the entire term. Now, if you have to be reconstituted every year, it means that you have to prove yourself. But we had also established a tradition between Khalwale and Senator Nyong'o that one would serve half the term and then hand over. But, it is not guaranteed. If you do a poor job, then you can be kicked out after 1 session. Electing a chair is the decision of the members of the committee. Again, this committee is unique that the chair comes from the opposition, but the opposition are a minority in the committee. The Jubilee coalition has 5, the NASA coalition has got 4. So it puts, there's a lot of disfavor right from the word go. And we are having conversations internally to ensure that if this is going to be an opposition-led committee, then the opposition needs to have a marginal majority, just like in the National Assembly, where the opposition has a majority of 1. That means that they can have a say, they can have an upper hand that reflects their leadership. I think because the Senate has not been there for too long, there are a lot of things that we are learning, and there will be need for us to reorganize our standing orders. I do think that going forward, we need maybe 2 committees.
Right.
One that would be looking at issues of county assemblies, because we are seeing a lot of graft from county assemblies, and another that would be looking at county executives and investments and county corporations. But those are things that we are sure that by the end of the term of this Senate, because we have a tradition that we do not change standing orders midway.
Right.
This next Senate that will be coming will benefit from a much better thought out process of establishing leadership of the Public Accounts Committee.
All right, thank you so much, Senator Moses Kajwang, of course, the outgoing chairperson of the CPAIC. Now he leaves the committee, and of course, there was an election yesterday. So thank you so much, Senator. Now we will be speaking to Senator Ledamo Lekina. But before we do that, let's take a look at some of the slides that we have introducing the new team that will be at the committee that was elected yesterday. The chairperson-elect is Ledamo Lekina, the senator for Narok. Then Kimani Wamatangi, the senator for Kiambu, is the vice chairperson. Then you have Irungo Kangata from Muranga, Godana Hagura from Marsabit, Millicent Omanga from Jubilee. Of course, the unnominated senator, she remains a member. Jones Mwaruma from Taita Taveta joins the committee. Senator Samson Ongeri from Kisi, still a member. Ochilo Ayako joins the committee. Then we also know that, of course, that is the leadership that is outgoing, that is of Moses Kajwang and Mithika Linturi. And now the persons that have been elected is Senator Ledamo Lekina and Kimani Wamatangi as the vice chairperson. But this election has already been contested because Ledamo Lekina got 5 votes, Samson Ongeri got 4 votes. It was a vote by secret ballot, but the minority leader, James Orengo, has written to the Speaker of the Senate saying that I express and register dissatisfaction with the conduct and outcome of the elections of the leadership of CPAIC, which were purportedly done today. That is the 4th of May. And he continues to say that we intend, that is the minority party, to withdraw the membership from the said committee until an appropriate resolution can be made. And that's why we speak to Senator Ledamo Lekina. Of course,